Hello, I am Centimus Prime, and here I will be reviewing the Transformers Legacy Evolution Voyager class DIRGE. Now, first and foremost, we will be taking a closer look at the figure himself, and we will be taking a closer look at his very intricate details, and we will start off by zooming in on his face. And I will say it does look nice. It definitely looks like the iconic blue cone head. Very nice. Do get some panel lines, which is very standard for your Generations figures. That's how the back of his head looks. Very straightforward. His face. Oh yes. I absolutely adore how nicely the face has been sculpted. To have such an angry, yelling expression on his face just makes this guy stand out in a good way. Very nice. And yes, his eyes and face has been painted really nicely. But yeah, he's just screaming from the top of his iron lungs. Potentially going Super Saiyan as he does it. I don't know if he can do that. I think that's a Dragon Balls thing, not a Transformers thing, but whatever. Moving down from the head, you can tell that, yes, this is basically just the Earthrise Starscream mold just recolored and with some nice changes to it. Here's how he looks from the back. Very nice. First, we'll graze over the stuff that's we've already pretty much seen before. The torso is pretty much identical, though this time around there's a lot more of that black going on. This panel back up here is molded in black instead of being painted over in a for some odd reason. I do appreciate that. Very nice. Very neat. His intakes are very nice. He does have some nice gold and red paint apps on the ends of his intakes. Very nice. His cockpit is very visible, as well as this blue band chest piece over here. His turbine chest details are there. No, it's pretty much just a Seeker mold. As to the arms, the arms are just like that. It does look nice in dark blue and black, though. Very cool. Moving down to the legs, a lot of the details are the same, but there are a lot with the back, and especially the legs is where most of your detail is, where most of your new sculpt is where most of your retooling is, because these shin panels are indeed different than your typical Starscream Seeker. You do see some nice details on here, and you do get these odd, very tall knee pads that are done up in this purple, that done up in various colors and paint apps, from white to purple with specks of gold and red in it. does give him a unique look to it. Now, details of his shins look different than your typical Seeker. His Seeker feet, while sculpted differently, sculpted differently to not be attached to stabilizer fins. They're pretty much the same in terms of details and stuff. Now, the big changes to his design are going to be indeed his wings. And for that, we'll turn over to his back. Yes, he still has the cockpit's like nose cone just folded over his back like that. And here we do get his... Now, despite the majority of his legs looking pretty much the same, I do think that a lot of his legs have been retooled to change up the wing designs. At least I would think so. But we also come to the main attraction, which are these weird mustard yellow wings. And I honestly do think this color works nice for Dirge. Do like it? You do get these nice wings. You do get a nice amount of details on them, and some Decepticons insignias on each side. You do get some on this side that are visible in robot mode. They're slightly smaller and stuff. And over on this side, they're upside down and larger, I'm guessing for the vehicle mode. And he does have like these little like wing things up here that flip over his shoulders. Flip over the back of his shoulders. Also done up in this like mustard yellow color. Something I will note is that I have the Legacy Evolution version of this guy. There is a Amazon exclusive 2-pack of this guy who also comes with the Ramjet. That came in an Earthrise pack, 2-pack. And while mostly pretty much identical, there is like one major difference between the two Dirges, and that is the color of plastic used for these wings. Because for that Earthrise release, they basically molded these wings in black and just completely painted this mustard yellow color over it, which led to stuff like these 5mm holes being visibly black or being able to chip easily. Whereas this release, these parts are just molded in this color and you don't have to worry about the paint chipping. I do consider that a plus over the Earthrise version. Another plus is how easier to get this guy is compared to that Earthrise release. Because in case you didn't know, that Earthrise 2-pack, along with the Earthrise Ironhide and Prowl 2-pack, those two like Amazon packs were like extremely like hard to get. And therefore extremely expensive. But enough of that about that. We basically gone over his design, even though it's a lot of it is basically retreading old ground. That's sort of a thing that can occur when reviewing like retools or repaints or stuff like that, or redecos. But enough about that. Let's get on to the articulation. So articulation, his head is on a ball joint. He can look up pretty far. He can look down a tiny bit. His head can, of course, swivel on my copy, there's like this small little red spot over there. I really don't mind that. It does have a little bit of wiggle room, though it's not really noticeable. His shoulders. So his wings back here, they can fold down due to transformation, and these can flip around. These things can like rotate around to accommodate for the shoulder articulation, which is pretty much just the same as the Earthrise. It's just it can move out that far. It can rotate 360, bicep rotation, slightly above 90 in elbow, and you get this joint here due to transformation. And then, of course, like the Earthrise Starscream mold, there is no waist rotation. His crotch flap can flip up and down to accommodate the hip movement, which can bend up to about that far. It can bend out a little bit more if you rotate it out because there's stuff in the way. Can kick out to about that far. And you can kick back pretty much none at all because this butt flap can't like hinge out or anything. He does have a thigh rotation. He does have a knee, and he does have a knee bend that can bend to a little over 90 degrees. And if you untap, and of course you can untap this to try to utilize more of that knee bend. You know what? Pretty much a lot of that's just the same. However, on my copy of this guy, his right knee is a little bit looser. It's kind of loose. It's a little bit more loose than I would prefer it to be. While his other one is a little bit tighter than I would prefer it to be. It's just a weird thing about his like tolerance things that just happen for pretty much my copy. Then down here, his wings can hinge back and forth. They can hinge back. They can hinge back to about that much, and it doesn't do much forward, and it doesn't rotate forward much due to how this hinge was sculpted. They can splay them back and like that. I will say these like wings can get in the way of some art like poses because mainly because like how weird and how much they can get in the way and stuff. And then finally his feet, he has your standard ankle tilt, about that much, and his heel and toes can hinge downward due to transformation. So yeah, basically pretty much the same as the Earthrise Starscream, just little differences here and there. Very nice. Like that one, it's not the greatest in terms of articulation, but it's decent enough, I think. It's good enough, I think. Next up are the accessories, and this guy only comes with 2, and that is indeed his standard null rays. And as you can tell, these null arrays are basically just the Earthrise Starscream null arrays, just done up in black. And of course, you can plug these in anywhere where there's a 5mm hole. You can plug it in, so you can plug it into his shoulders like you would any Seeker, making him look complete like that. Or of course you can plug it into either his legs and or his wings and or his hands, though that doesn't look right. I will say, despite this looking really this is on the packaging. This is what is considered Evo Fusion. Just him, just holding his null arrays. It's absolutely. They call that Evo Fusion. Crazy, huh? Or last but not least, how I prefer to attach these to Dirge is, so there's a 5mm hole on the back of each of his forearms, and you can plug that into his forearms, and you can have him with his null rays like that. And that's how I prefer to have him wield his null rays. Makes it look different. Makes it look that extra bit different from a typical Seeker. I think it works. Very, very nice. And of course, because this is retooled from a War for Cybertron figure, it does have lots of those 3mm pegs that can just attach blast effects onto. That being on his forearm, his turbine hit. And yes, he even has like a 3mm hole that you can attach a Figma stand or something into. Very nice. Very nice indeed. So, for size comparisons, here he is next to my Siege Centimus Prime, my custom Centimus Prime. That's how it compares to that figure. Here he is next to Crosscut, which is another character I probably need to think about reviewing sometime soon. So that's how he compares to a Deluxe in a fellow Evolution Deluxe. And of course, here he is next to the Earthrise mold Starscream, which this is not the Earthrise Starscream. This is just the Studio Series 86 Starscream, but it's basically the same figure with some very minor differences. So that's how he compares to his fellow Seeker mold. Very nice. And with that, we are done with his robot mode. And now let's get on to the transformation. Very nice. So, you can take off these. You can take these off. So first, let's fold up his arms. So you can just untab and flip out this part. and just according this in while pushing this out. Like a typical Seeker mold, your typical Earthrise Seeker mold. Do that with the other side. Squeeze this apart, carefully untap these and pull this apart. Flip up the nose cone so it can go over his head, his cone head, and just tab into the cockpit section. According this out and rotate it and flip it up, have it lock into place. After that, you fold his arms in like so. Then after that, you basically fold this back in and lock this stuff back into place, making sure that everything is nice and secure. After that, you can flip these blue parts down, have them so they're flush with the back, and then you can rotate these yellow parts and just tab them into place. Nice. Alright. Now we can work on the legs. So the legs, we can fold up the feet, much like how you would with your your Earthrise Starscream. Straighten out the wings. Have them so that they're nice and straight. Tab them together. Untab the shins. According the legs in Combiner Wars style. Having them so that the tabs can tab into the legs, so that the legs tab into the butt flap like so, locking all that in place. And then finally you just fold these back in, having it so that these knee pads rest over the crotch panel, like so. And then just attach the guns where you'd like, and that's it. That's how you transform Dirge into his jet mode. And I will say, this is where most of that retooling really shines. Looks really nice. I do like it. Really, really nice. How about we take a look at the jet? So the jet, we'll start off with the front. Again, it's basically just Starscream again. You do get but it's basically in blue this time around. You still do get your cockpit with the seat details in them, though this time it's harder to see because it's black plastic, because it's kind of a little bit harder to see. You get your intake still, you get your undercarriage still, though this time around it's slightly different, but still. And the middle, and the blue parts in the middle are detailed pretty much the same. And of course the thrusters are pretty much the same. Again, the parts that are mostly different are, again, the parts that are in this mustard yellow color. That's where most of your attention goes, I think. I will say they look really nice. These two parts do line up nicely together, and does make it look really cool. I like it. Here we get those Decepticon symbols and all of this deep panel details and panel lines on full display, as well as these wing stabilizers that just bend upwards at the end. Looks very cool. I very much like that. And of course turning it onto its underside. Do still get that, all those details you saw before down here. Very nice. Very cool. I will say, because these parts, I will say you might want to be careful when placing them down in jet mode, because these parts are painted, and these parts, I'm just saying that you might want to be careful when placing this down, because when laying it down, it is going to rest on the shin parts and this part. But the thing is, these parts are also fully painted, so you might want to be careful about that. Like maybe just gently putting them on a harder surface, or rather just gently putting them on a nice softer surface and stuff, something like that, and not just swoosh around, just land and have it scrape on the ground or something like that. It's just a recommendation. Just a recommendation. As for the null rays, which again are blast effect compatible, sadly I don't think I have any blast effect compatible pieces on effects on me right now, but I showed that off in my Starscream review, so not really that big of a deal. Now, there are a few places you can plug your null rays in. Most standardly, you can plug them onto the undersides of the wings, or you could just plug one in up here, or plug them in on the legs. But something I prefer to place them in is actually in these 5mm holes that are actually formed from the forearms. So you could just plug them in like that and have them aimed up, aimed forward like this. And I honestly do think that that's a nice look for that, for him. I do think that looks nice. And plus, if you decide to place him here, and if you do decide to place him here, you could technically transform this with those still on. You just need to rotate them outward. You just need to rotate them 180 when all is said and done. So you could technically, if you have them plugged into these holes, you could technically transform this guy with no need for parts form. Not even from the null rays, which I think is neat. And then for size comparison, let's see. So for size comparison, here is next to Skids, the Deluxe class. They do use a very similar blue, I feel like they do use a similar blue, maybe. Well, actually, looking at it, probably not. But that's how he compares to that. Here he is, because I have him on hand. Here he is, still have him on hand. Here he is next to the Siege Mirage mold. Very nice. And of course, here he is next to... Oh, there goes Spinister. I'll get him later. And of course, here he is next to the Earthrise Starscream. How cool is that? I don't have to fully transform him in order to show off both modes. Very nice. Of course, they're going to be approximately the same length and size and stuff because they are indeed pretty much using up the same molds. And you can, of course, see the various differences in terms of wing arrangements and all that. And you can see that these parts, despite being designed the same, there are actually different parts because these parts have been molded differently so they can accommodate the hinge part. So there is that. And so with that, let's move on to my overall thoughts. My overall thoughts on this guy, I do like it. It is a nice take on dirt on one of the cone heads. And of course, the other cone heads work nice with this mold as well, with their various retools and stuff. Very nice. Of course, because this is using the Earthrise mold, it does share some of the same issues I've had with the Earthrise Starscream. Of course, regarding to proportions and articulation and that. But that's to be expected if you're getting more seekers from this mold. Very nice. Very nice. So, would I get this guy? I say if you're finishing off a G1 collection, sure. If you like this sort of wing arrangement for your jets, I'd say go for it. But as of which version of this guy I would get, just get this guy. It is like the Earthrise pack. It does come packaged with ramjets, but the sheer amount of price combined with the fact that his wings are fully painted in this color rather than being molded in this color just makes me think that this guy is overall technically better than that, despite that being a part of the 2-pack. And it's a lot easier to find. It's not as expensive. And yeah, the wings, and you don't have to worry about the wings getting chipped as much. Which I could say the same for the bottom parts that are painted in that color. And yeah, it does have that. So overall, really nice. I do like it. Is of course not perfect, but it is a nice take on one of the iconic cone heads. And of course, who could resist that ever so iconic yelling, screaming expression? Ah, yes. I wish more Transformers came with that. I wish more Transformers came with more facial expressions with that. Very, very nice. And that'll be it for this review. If you enjoyed this review, consider to like and subscribe, and maybe even comment if you want. And of course, I will be posting again sooner or later.